Uh-oh. I think our camera might be a little off. I look a little different than that, but hopefully we'll get it. Well, we'll proceed. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Chair Janelle Wilkins. The date is February 19th, and we are starting our bill hearings for the day. First up is Delegate Spiegel, House Bill 676.
Okay. Ready to go, Madam Chair? Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Chair Wilkins, members of the committee. For the record, Delegate Ryan Spiegel in support of House Bill 676. And I made my children promise that when I announced the number of the bill, I wouldn't do this, but now I'm doing it. So. But in all seriousness, as the old expression goes, it's good to give someone a fish, but it's better to teach them how to fish. And that's why I've tried to be a strong advocate for financial empowerment and financial literacy programs to address the negative impacts of decades of systemic racism and lack of access that has contributed to the generational wealth gap and to cycles of debt. While other financial literacy bills focus on providing financial education in the academic environment at K-12 school programs or for university students, HB 676 is designed to provide financial empowerment services primarily to adults out in the community who have not had the benefit of that education or of access and opportunity when it comes to issues of debt and credit and personal budgeting. Now, notably, this is a reintroduction of a bill that passed the full House last year, and new this year, we have Senator King as our cross-filer in the Senate. We have a substantial population of residents here in Maryland, many of whom are minorities and immigrants, many of whom live and work in disadvantaged communities, for whom access to and education about financial services have historically been denied. And while direct aid is obviously important and it aligns with our values as a compassionate state, as a matter of equity, it's also critical to provide the tools and educational resources that can help address the root causes of poverty. If we want to have a more permanent impact and make more progress in addressing the generational wealth gap and those systemic barriers to access and opportunity, we really should also be investing in financial empowerment programs to give Marylanders the support to build financial stability for an entire lifetime, and then to pass on those benefits and those lessons to future generations. So House Bill 676 establishes a financial empowerment center pilot program to operate across the state. Now, what exactly is a financial empowerment center? In case you don't remember from last year's hearing, let me just say, during my time in municipal government, I led some efforts to partner with state and local nonprofit organizations, the private sector, and government partners to build a program that provides people with several sessions of free, hands-on, one-on-one financial coaching, and it's offered in multiple languages. The Gaithersburg Financial Empowerment Center also measures its own effectiveness by collecting and analyzing anonymized data from its clients. And with that data-driven approach, we've seen the truly transformative impacts of these services for families. In just its first year, that one local center helped clients achieve hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt reduction, as well as another series of hundreds of thousands of dollars, new dollars, saved by establishing savings accounts and budget plans, as well as significant increases in credit scores and individual success stories like saving for a down payment on a first home, or being able to send a child to college, or eliminating a crippling debt. So this isn't theoretical. These are real, measurable, life-changing metrics, and that's just for one center in just one city in just 1 year. Another local financial empowerment center is up and running in Baltimore, and we understand that Howard County is setting up a center as well, and Howard County Executive Calvin Ball has been a big supporter of these programs too. A couple local centers is a good start, but we need to expand this opportunity across the state, and we can do so efficiently through the Comptroller's office by adding financial empowerment to their menu of public-facing services. They already have 11 regional offices across the state where they can do this. I want to note also that the fiscal note here is quite small. It's a modest investment given the big impact that these programs have. In addition to the direct impact on clients, there's also the ripple effect on our state and local economies as more families can have more funds to spend in the community, and the promise of relief on the budget pressures of our social safety net if more people start to attain more financial stability and independence. Since this is a sponsor-only hearing, I just also want to mention that the Comptroller has expressed support for this concept. And as you can see in the committee file, we have a number of great organizations and officials supporting this legislation with written testimony. So given the transformative impacts on people's quality of life and future economic opportunity, as well as the long-term benefits to our state, I respectfully ask for a favorable report again this year. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Delegate, for bringing this bill. Are there any questions? All right, seeing no questions, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 676. Next up, I'm seeing what colleagues are in the room. Is Coda Bauer here? Okay. We'll go to House Bill 690. This is Delegate Hartman's bill, and his intern, Coda, will be presenting. Oh, you're here. Okay, you're gonna go up, okay. Because we're gonna have a lot of questions, so glad you're gonna be up there to help.
He can handle. He's the rock star.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, and members of the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, my name is Coda Bauer. I'm the intern for Delegate Hartman, and I'm here today to present House Bill 690, the Economic Competitiveness Act of 2026. The purpose of this legislation is to decrease the state's corporate income tax rate from 8.25% to 6.25% over the next 4 taxable years. Lowering the corporate tax rate will make our state more competitive for attracting and retaining businesses. This is especially pertinent when tax rates of our neighboring states are considered. Virginia has a rate of 6%, West Virginia has a rate of 6.5%, and Pennsylvania has a rate of 7.49%. It should also be noted that Pennsylvania has passed legislation that drops its rate by 0.5% annually until it reaches a final rate of 4.99% in 2031. Maryland's rate is at 8.25%, which places us at the 9th highest corporate tax rate in the nation. Lowering our state's rate will dissuade local businesses from moving to neighboring states, as well as incentivize new businesses to locate in Maryland. Making Maryland a competitive state for doing business must be a top priority. According to the American Legislative Exchange Council, Maryland is currently ranked 42nd in the nation for economic outlook and 41st in the nation for economic performance. According to the Tax Foundation, Maryland is ranked 46th in overall state tax competitiveness. Lowering our tax rate will improve Maryland's economic performance by bringing in more businesses, stimulating job growth, and promoting innovation. According to the Maryland Chamber of Commerce, we are ranked 32nd overall for conducting business, 43rd in cost of living, 46th for cost of doing business, and 37th for business friendliness. I believe this fiscal policy note does not acknowledge opportunities for business growth and subsequent revenue increases. It only shows decreases in revenue without showing potential job creation and reinvestment in business and technology. When businesses thrive, so do employees and the economy. The secondary effects of this legislation should be considered, and the fiscal note fails to do so. The positive effects of this legislation, however, should be considered through this fiscal policy note. Passing this bill would send the right message to businesses and Marylanders alike, that Maryland is working hard to improve its economy by strengthening the private sector. Thank you for your time and consideration this afternoon, and I respectfully ask for a favorable report on House Bill 690.
Thank you so much. Excellent job, Coda.
Yeah,
Anything to add?
Thank you, Coda. I think you did a great job. So we hear the governor talk about the impact of the federal job loss, and that impact to us is exacerbated because of the lack of private sector jobs. You know, it's not the federal government's responsibility to make sure, you know, Maryland or Virginia have jobs. It's, as legislators, that's our responsibility. You heard Coda mention some of the 9th highest corporate tax rate in the country. Couple that with the highest electric cost in the country, the 47th highest individual tax, number 47 in the country as far as highest tax rate. That's a recipe for where we are right now. So we've talked about this before. The Augustine Commission talked about it years ago. It's not something that just this administration, in fact, the governor tried last year in one of his bills to lower the corporate tax. It's certainly been talked about a lot in this committee over the years. I know several delegates in the past that have carried this bill. We need to start having the conversation and move in the right direction. So that's the purpose of the bill. And, hopefully we have that conversation and start going in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Any questions on this bill? All right, seeing none. Oh, go ahead, Delegate Roberson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just quick question. You decided to go with, was it 6.25% by 2030? How did you come up with that number, going from 8.25 to 6.25?
It's a half, it just kind of takes the hit over the course of several years. It just shows that we're moving in the right direction, and it's a gradual decline. I mean, it's a start.
Gotcha. Thank you. Great job, Code.
Delegate Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Great job, Coda. My question, Delegate, is we talked about what's happening in the other states and how some of the other states are reducing their corporate their corporate income tax to spur business. And we talked about how the fiscal note doesn't take into account the potential positive impact. Are y'all in a position to forecast what that potential positive impact might be?
To forecast, I mean, we hear all the time about the trickle-down impact. And, I certainly don't have the numbers to do that. There are a lot of factors. But, we see bills all the time for virtue signaling. And to me, by starting here, this will be, signaling to our businesses that, yesterday we met a lot of the companies that are here in Maryland and heard of some of the challenges they have. And they're staying here for various reasons. Marriott Corporation, they said the family is so rooted here, they're staying here. But our ability to attract new companies, who wants to come to a state where they're going to have one of the ninth highest corporate income tax, they're going to have, one of the highest personal income taxes, the highest utility rates. We need to change the message, and we need to say that Maryland's open for business.
I agree with that. I think that the reason I looked that up is simply certainly those other states may be doing the same thing you just mentioned, but maybe if they had some data on what their expectation was, that could be something that we could also look at. So we could talk about it another time.
If you remember the bullion bill I had last week, we looked at the one state that took away the tax on bullion. Mm-hmm. We have a $2 million fiscal note on that bill. The state that took it away, I think it was Michigan, they looked at it 10 years later, and there was a huge uptick in the number of shops. There were 650 new jobs created. Coin shows, and they actually turned a $2 million negative fiscal note into a $1.7 million plus for the state because of personal income tax, sales tax, and all those other things. It's a compounding formula.
Yeah, similar anticipation, I would imagine.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Thanks for the question.
Delegate Buckle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate the conversation, the questions that are very spot on from our colleagues. Delegate Hartman, you may remember this. It just occurred to me. I think when we had our fiscal briefing, despite the fact that we continue to have a fairly high corporate income tax rate, the Augustine Commission recommended years ago that we deal with that. We really haven't. If I recall correctly, year over year, our corporate income tax revenues are going down. Is that correct?
That is correct. It was declining. And I think I raised the question, is it declining because of lower sales or because we're actually losing businesses here in Maryland?
Yeah, and that's a difficult question. And we want to support all businesses, but sometimes all businesses are not created equal in terms of what they can do for job production and revenue to the state. If you lose a 1,000-person employer or a 500-person employer because in part they're concerned about their fiscal picture, that can't be made up with, 100 two-people operations. And so do you think that the tax rate may have some relationship it just seems strange to me. This happens to us in this committee too every year with tobacco taxes. We raise tobacco taxes, and then the next year, the revenue that we get from the tobacco tax actually goes down. I'm about as anti-tobacco as you can get personally, but as a tax policy, it doesn't seem like we're getting more from having higher rates. It seems like we may be depressing activity.
I think it's true with previous administrations. We saw that they raised the taxes and it had a absolutely, the reverse effect, as you're saying, but it was more global to the state's economy under the O'Malley administration. I don't think we've seen all the fallout yet from the data tax that we passed, the IT tax that we passed last year. That certainly could be having an impact on our corporate taxes because we know very well, very close to home here, that some IT businesses are leaving the state.
I appreciate the thought process. Thank you.
All right, seeing no other questions, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 690. Thank you,
Madam
Delegate,
Chair.
and thank you,
Good job,
Coda.
Coda.
Thanks.
We will jump back up to Delegate Bendari, House Bill 694.
Good afternoon, committee. Proud of you, Madam Chair, and everybody on the committee for great work you guys doing. Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair, and members of the Ways and Means Committee. Thank you for the opportunity to present House Bill 694. At its core, this bill is about one simple principle. Income that is earned abroad, taxed abroad, and already excluded from federal taxation should not be taxed again by our state. While the statutory language may sound very technical, the issue is straightforward. Under Section 911 of the Internal Revenue Code, certain foreign earned income is excluded from federal taxation. The question that arose in our state is whether that same income must be added back and taxed at the state level. In 2024, the appellate court of our state in Cosgrove versus Comptroller pointed out that Maryland law is unclear on this issue. The court also noted that historically, the General Assembly has operated under the understanding that federal exclusion for foreign earned income apply in Maryland as well. In that case, Madam Chair, the Comptroller agreed with the taxpayer and issued the refund with interest. The fiscal note confirmed that Comptroller's position is that Maryland aid-back provision does not apply to foreign earned income under Section 911. House Bill 694 simply codifies that interpretation. For the information of the committee, it does not create a new tax benefit. It does not expand any eligibility. It does not change federal law. And importantly, it has no fiscal impact on the state. What it does is simply remove the ambiguity. It brings our state law into clear alignment with federal treatment, ensure fairness, and it provides predictability for Maryland taxpayers who live and work abroad, including military families, nonprofit employees, and private sector professionals representing our state around the world. Clear tax statute benefit everyone. They reduce dispute, they reduce administrative burden, and they ensure that our tax code reflects legislative intent. House Bill 694 is the House cross-file of Senate Bill 163, bipartisan bill, which has already passed the Senate. This is very narrow, technical clarification, but clarity in tax law matters. I respectfully ask for a favorable report, and I'm happy to answer any question if the committee have. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Colleagues, any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you, Delegate. That ends the bill hearing on House Bill 694.
Thank you.
Thank you. We will go back up to Delegate Baylor, who's here, House Bill 653.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon to the best committee in Annapolis. For the record, For the record, I am Delegate Dylan Baylor, delegate for District 30A right here, Annapolis, testifying in support of House Bill 653. I respectfully request a favorable report of House Bill 653 to increase the subtraction modification for public safety retirement from $15,000 to $20,000. It is important to note that the legislation, or that the approach in this legislation provides an incremental phase-in of the increase of $1,000 over the next 5 years. As this committee is well aware, you've heard this bill before, our first responders serve our communities with grace and courage, often placing themselves in harm's way to protect Marylanders. Whether they are firefighters, law enforcement officers, emergency medical professionals, or correctional officers, they dedicate their careers to public service, frequently at great personal sacrifice. House Bill 653 would provide a meaningful increased benefit and recognition to those that have served our communities and helped keep each and every Marylander safe. While this legislation is not new to this committee, I do believe that there are new considerations under the proposed legislation that should be considered with your consideration of this. Firstly, as I mentioned previously, this legislation provides a phased-in approach to the subtraction modification here with a $1,000 increase over the next 5 years. And secondly, I think it's important to remember that prior to my time in the General Assembly passed the Keep Our Heroes Home Act in 2023, which increased the subtraction modification for military retirees from $15,000 to $20,000. And prior to that legislation, there was parity amongst military retirees and public safety retirees. This legislation would ensure that there is that parity once again. And once again, I would respectfully request a favorable report of House Bill 653 to help support our retired public safety personnel across the state. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions? All right, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 694. Delegate Grammer here on 2 bills, House Bill 707.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Delegate Robin Grammer here to present House Bill 707. House Bill 707 phases out the taxation of retirement income in Maryland over a period of 3 years. One topic we all hear about year after year is the cost of living in Maryland. We hear about it in our district, we hear about it in our communities, we even hear about it in the speeches of governors. Food, property taxes, water and energy costs, phone and cable bills, rent and the cost of housing. You can count on the cost of these inelastic expenditures to go up every year. For many people, something must be cut. Compare these costs to where they were 10 years ago and you will find radical increases. This is extremely punitive to retired and elderly Marylanders. Maryland has and increasingly suffers from an abnormally high cost of living. The taxation of retirement income in our state makes these unrelenting costs of living punitive for the retirees, whose fixed incomes never meet their needs. It also incentivizes people to leave our state, and we continue to see a net loss of residents. Maryland has many aging communities, people who have lived in Maryland their entire lives, people who have worked and paid taxes in Maryland their entire lives, and wish to age in place close to families, friends, and familiar communities. People of every district want to be able to retire near their children and grandchildren. When I became a member of the legislature in 2015, the size of the budget was over $39 billion. 2 years ago, the size of the budget was over $62 billion. That is over a 62% increase in 8 years. Governor Moore has offered the budget of over $66 billion. The size of our budget has exploded. When do the most vulnerable people of our state, our retirees, when do they get relief? It is clear we can afford to stop taxing our retirees out of the state. In the face of skyrocketing inflation, which is putting those on fixed incomes underwater, we should eliminate the taxation of retirement income and keep Marylanders in Maryland. With that, I'd be happy to take questions and ask for a favorable on House Bill 707.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Any questions? Okay, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 707. Next up, House Bill 729.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Delegate Robin Grammer here to present House Bill 729. House Bill 729 eliminates the current sales and use tax exemption so that it applies to all purchases of precious metals or bullion. Currently, the sales of over $1,000 of bullion or precious metals receive a complete sales and use tax exemption. I can't see why we give a tax exemption to the wealthy and not to the less affluent Marylanders. Maryland small businesses are harmed by this policy of taxing precious metals under $1,000 for sales of under $1,000. Their sales of taxable and non-taxable items are leaving the state along with Maryland's state revenue. This harm is exacerbated when you consider that all of Maryland's neighbors, Pennsylvania, Delaware, West Virginia, and Virginia, have already stopped taxing purchases of gold and silver. The purchase of precious metals and bullion are a great way to preserve your wealth in inflationary times such as this. House Bill 729 applies the sales and use exemption currently received by sales of over $1,000 to sales of less than $1,000, so that less affluent Marylanders can protect their wealth as well. With that, I'd be happy to take questions, and I'd ask for a favorable on House Bill 729.
Thank you so much, Delegate. I see a question from Delegate Buckle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Delegate Grammer, is your bill exactly identical to Delegate Hartman's bill that we already heard with a lot of testimony in the committee? It seems to be exactly identical.
I'm not sure. So this was actually Delegate Fisher's bill that he's carried for several years, and I asked if he wanted to do it this year or if he preferred I do it, and he punted it to me. So this is the version we've carried for several years now.
I'll let Delegate Hartman follow up, but I don't think there's a bit of difference between your bills. Thanks.
Delegate Hartman.
So was your testimony that under 1,000, over 1,000, there was significance?
I don't think there should be.
Are you saying there is now, though?
Yes, there is.
Just to correct the record, last year in the BRFA, we changed the tax laws on bullion.
Right.
And we tax any level of sale.
Right.
Unless it occurs at the show in Baltimore City.
Okay.
So I
What does
just
the
want to make sure
statute
the
say?
record's straight for the,
What does the statute say?
we tax any bullion sale, whether it's $1 or 100,000.
I'm not sure that's what it says, Delegate.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. The questions are going to go just one way from the committee members to the witness or sponsor.
Sure.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for this witness?
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Delegate. Next up, Delegate Schmidt, House Bill 909.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Last year, I presented this bill on Valentine's Day, with it being a cut flowers bill. We missed that by a few days this year, but I did want to highlight that. Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and esteemed members of the committee. Delegate Stuart Schmidt, representing District 33B. This bill is a constituent-driven proposal, very straightforward. It just adds one sentence to Section 11-201. The purpose is to provide a sales and use tax, provide that sales and use tax does not apply for the sale of cut flowers by a farmer. Last year, this committee heard some testimony by a couple local farmers that live here in the area. And this simply aligns that cut flowers with other agricultural products that are already exempt from the sales tax code. By doing so, we'll make cut flowers more affordable for consumers, more importantly, provide meaningful support for our local farmers. As we know, agriculture is our #1 industry here in Maryland and an essential part of the economy. Demand for locally grown flowers has increased across Maryland. However, unlike other agricultural products, including flowers that are used for consumption, cut flowers are not currently exempt from the sales tax. This creates a financial disadvantage for these growers. When we exempt agricultural products broadly, why would we not exempt cut flowers as well? House Bill 909 corrects this inconsistency. Maryland farmers continue to operate on tight margins, as we know. Many diversify their operations to remain financially sustainable. We know that the agritourism industry is growing substantially as well. Flower production is one such avenue, yet the current tax structure limits growers' ability to fully benefit from this market. Providing a sales tax exemption would allow farmers to reinvest in their businesses, expand production, strengthen their operations. It would also encourage new growers to enter this market, which would increase competition, consumer choice, and therefore lower pricing. This bill represents a win-win for both consumers and farmers, and I ask the committee to urge a favorable report for House Bill 909. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Let's see if there are any questions. Seeing none, we appreciate the bill, and that ends the hearing on House Bill 909.
You got it. You guys are moving right along.
We are very efficient here. Next up, Delegate Long, House Bill 651.
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair and fellow members. Which bill are we hearing again? I'm sorry.
We can start with House Bill 651.
650.
651, the tax exemptions, individuals detained or taken hostage abroad.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Delegate Bob Long, I'm here to testify on HB 651. You heard this bill last year. This would provide tax relief, hold on for a second, for any hostages were taken. And after we started looking into it, we actually had some hostages taken not too long ago, right here from Maryland. Let me get their names. Let's see. We had a Daniel Snyder. He was detained in Russia. He's still being detained in Russia since 2023. He's from Sykesville. We have a Jamaica, I think that's right, my eyes. Ivy is from Montgomery County. He's in being held overseas since 25 last year. We have Robert Orbell, detained in Venezuela in 2025. We have Eric Orbell, I guess that must be his relative. He's also being held in Venezuela. All these are Maryland people that's being held hostage. I think this is only fair that that if someone's taken hostage, that we should try to help them out as much as they possibly can, because they're being taken hostage is not by their own making. So we should make sure that we can support these people as much as we can. If you remember my testimony last year, I think it was, when the Iran took all the hostages from America, just before Ronald Reagan got elected, I had a friend of mine, his son had told me, what they had to go through when they took these people hostage. If you remember when the Iran took all the Americans hostage, they released them the day that Ronald Reagan got sworn in. Just wondering why. Anyway, that's what this bill is for. We want to make sure if any hostage situations that we don't put any more burdens on them. I mean, if they're hostage overseas, there's not really much they can do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Any questions on this bill? Okay, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing for House Bill 651. Next up, House Bill 656.
This has to do with nonprofits and actually supporting terrorist organizations. We actually looked at this Secretary of State. They have the authority to designate groups as terrorist organizations. The U.S. Department State maintains a list of foreign terrorist organizations and easily found online. Example, well, let's see. The Secretary of State does monitor the FBI Domestic Investigations, CIA, Bureau of Counterterrorism, and Department of Treasury. Example, there was a terrorist organization, nonprofit here in Maryland. It was called TAMI, T-A-M-I. In 2009, it was the government froze its assets based on Maryland Charitable Nonprofit Foundation. Basically, they were giving funneling money to an organization that was using child soldiers, suicide bombers, and potential assassinations. That being said, I think the comptroller had wrote that she was a little concerned about keeping an eye on how this is, how they're reported. Basically, it's on the Secretary of State's website, all terrorists. They have a right to put them on and also take them out. So it's very updated. And, we don't want to be giving terrorists tax breaks and give them nonprofit status if they're using their facilities to facilitate terrorist organizations. And that's what this bill is for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. I do see a question. Delegate Buckle.
Delegate Long, thank you, and I think that's important. It doesn't happen a lot, but it certainly could happen. What's the mechanism for we're identifying the terrorist organization? Are we using like a federal, the United States government designates a lot of different, not a lot, but certainly
I know that the power Secretary of State has the authority to designate groups or terrorist organizations. It's on a website. You can actually obtain it going to the Secretary of State, and they're actually listed terrorist groups. I don't think it'd be real difficult to look at those terrorist groups and see if they have any organizations here operating as a nonprofit.
Okay, so it'd be sort of a two-step process, identifying that, and then somebody, comptroller or somebody would see if someone found out. Where I live in small Western Maryland, we had 20 years ago some individuals, I think they were doctors actually, and they were associated with a group called the Tamil Tigers.
That's the same thing. That's the same thing I was talking about.
It was an organization that was engaged in some activities in Sri Lanka.
Right.
We have a fairly large Sri Lankan community that emigrated to Western Maryland. Great people, one of my best friends in life. And so that's what you're getting at, is to try to find those specific organizations and prevent them from getting tax breaks here.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think we should be giving tax breaks to terrorist organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. We appreciate the bill. Seeing no additional questions, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 656. We will now go to Delegate Griffith, House Bill 857.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Delegate Mike Griffith, and I'm requesting a favorable report on income tax subtraction modification for military retirement income individuals under the age of 55. This is a bill we've had multiple times, and we currently allow a subtraction modification for individuals over 55 that are retired military veterans, but we're missing a big piece of the pie there because many veterans retire at 38 and sometimes younger for medical reasons. But when I joined the Marine Corps at 18, if I would have stayed in for my 20 years, I could have retired at 38 years old. That means it'll be 17 years until I'm eligible for that subtraction modification, which we're already inequitable with other states with tax retirement income for veterans. This makes it further burdensome for people to come to the state. I do want to talk about the fiscal note a little bit. So the fiscal note is $3 million annually, but the fiscal note does not talk about the net effect of losing these veterans for not wanting to come here and work in the state. So according to the data from Department of Veterans Affairs, State Archives, and the Comptroller, each veteran, retired veteran, accounts for $115,000 in economic impact in the state of Maryland. So if we lose 26 veterans because we're not allowing them to have a subtraction modification on their income, that $3 million is gone right there. For every 26 veterans we lose, it's $3 million. That's it. So if we can keep 26 veterans in the state, we've offset that loss according to the fiscal note in one move. That's it. And gaining 26 or preventing 26 veterans from leaving the state is certainly worth that and very easy to do if we make some additional accommodations for our veterans. And that doesn't even fully describe the positive impact of our veterans, because for every veteran we have, the federal government makes additional investments into our state through the VA and a lot of other organizations. So that's just the individual impact. So ultimately, 20 to 25 veterans leave the state, that's $3 million right there. So very simple bill, very straightforward. And we're talking about trying to find ways to gain revenue, keeping veterans, retired veterans who, again, 75% of our retired veterans have a full-time job in addition to their retirement income. Not a very difficult thing to do for such a small fiscal note. Bring more veterans, keep more veterans here, and significantly impact our economic outlook. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Any questions? Delegate Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Delegate Griffin, can you give us a forecast on what you think it would look like if we were able to keep those veterans you're talking about?
Sure, I touched on it a little bit. I mean, for, again, every 26 veterans that leave our state is $3 million lost. Every 26 veterans that stay here is $3 million retained. And and the fiscal note's $3 million. So if we can keep 50 veterans in the state of Maryland, we've doubled we've offset the fiscal note by $3 million in the positive. So math is pretty easy. The data is right there to show us what it is. I hope at some point our fiscal notes are reflecting the net impact of some of these policies. But this is a net gain without breaking a sweat, so.
Thank you, Delegate. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 857. We'll go to House Bill 761.
All right, again, thank you, Madam Chair. And for the record, my name is Delegate Mike Griffith, requesting a favorable report on HB 761, income tax subtraction modification for military retirement income, also known as the Keep Our Heroes Home Act. This is a continuance of the governor's bill that he passed in this committee several years ago that we all voted for. That bill increased the subtraction modification from 15 to 20,000. What this bill would seek to do is increase that to 40,000. And again, for the exact same reasons I stated before. The fiscal note on this says 29 million, right? That equals 252 veterans. If 252 veterans stay in Maryland versus leave, that offsets that $29 million. Only 252, right? If 300 veterans leave, then obviously it turns this fiscal note into 60 million because we've lost all those individuals, right? So the math is plain to see. We're trying to find ways to incentivize yourself to make us more competitive. And again, one of the big things looming for our state, this is very important, the next round of BRAC is coming. I've had multiple conversations with the Department of Defense, the head of the Air Force, and they've said in these conversations that veteran quality of life is a major factor in reevaluating the BRAC realignment. We have military bases on the chopping block right now, according to the Department of Defense. And if we don't do more to make sure this is an attractive place for veterans to live and to retire, we will lose military installations. That is an absolute fact. And so this is part of that package of bills to make sure we're improving that and increasing our BRAC score to make sure we're at least net breaking even instead of a net loser in the next round of BRAC. Because as of right now, we will lose military installations when the next BRAC comes, and it is coming soon. So with that, I urge a favorable report.
Thank you so much. We do have a couple questions. Delegate Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think the point I'm getting at with the questions is, you talk about keeping veterans. So my question more so, and my sister's a veteran, my brother's a veteran, so how many veterans are we losing every year is really what I'm trying to get at. What does that universe look like such that these would be able to help keep them here?
I mean, so we know we're a net loser in overall population, according to all the statistics. How many veterans itself, we don't know. I'll get you that data. But we do know this is one of the least attractive states in America to be here as a retired veteran. The amount we tax generally, the fact that we tax veteran retirement income at all makes us an outlier. So if you're a veteran, a retired veteran, would you be here and get your regular income and your veteran retirement income tax, or would you go to a number of 30 to 40 states that don't tax your retirement income at all? It just makes sense.
And I want to correct the record. My sister's active duty, not a veteran. But I do appreciate, though, that you come with the data to say, hey, this many veterans will save us, will counter the fiscal note. I think that's really important information. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Delegate. Seeing no other questions, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 761.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next up, Delegate Roberts, House Bill 902. Welcome back to Ways and Means for the second time.
Hello. The last time I was here, I learned that I had to testify on a bill, my bill, that like 5 minutes before the hearing.
Oh, dear.
So I didn't get a chance to say, welcome to all the new members, my new colleagues to my committee, to my old committee.
You're always welcome back.
Thank you. Okay. Madam Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the Ways and Means Committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. For the record, I'm Delegate Denise Roberts, and I proudly represent District 25. And I'm also the proud sponsor of House Bill 902, the Retire in Maryland Tax Relief Act. HB 902 is built on a simple but powerful reality. As Marylanders age, their costs go up while their financial flexibility goes down. Housing costs rise, prescription drugs and medical care become more frequent and more expensive, and everyday essentials from groceries to utilities take a larger share of a fixed income. Yet for many of our older residents, their income is not growing to meet those costs. HB 902 responds to that reality in a targeted and responsible way by creating a state income tax credit for Maryland residents age 77 and older with moderate incomes. The structure of the bill is intentionally graduated and focused. The credit begins at 25% of a senior's state income tax liability at age 77, increases to 50% at age 78, 75% at age 79, and reaches 100% at age 80 and above. The oldest Marylanders, those most likely to be widowed, living alone, and facing the highest health-related expenses, receive the strongest relief. Importantly, the credit is limited to moderate income households up to $175K for individual filers and up to $250K for joint filers, surviving spouses, and heads of household. That means the relief goes to middle-income retirees, not the wealthy. Maryland has taken steps in recent years to ease the tax burden on retirees. We provide Social Security exemptions, pension exclusions, and the 2022 Retirement Tax Elimination Act credit. We even passed a subtraction modification for centenarians, a recognition that living to 100 in Maryland is an achievement worthy of tax relief. But for the vast majority of seniors, especially those in their 70s and 80s, these existing programs are no longer enough. Inflation, higher rents, escalating healthcare costs have eroded the value of those benefits. Seniors who spent their lives working, raising families, volunteering, and paying taxes in Maryland now face the painful choice of leaving the state they helped build because they cannot afford to stay. HB 902 is designed to prevent that outcome by reducing or eliminating state income tax for our oldest residents. This bill helps them stay in their homes, remain close to their children and grandchildren, and continue to be active in their communities. This is not a luxury. It is about security and dignity, about making sure a Marylander in their 70s does not have to choose between filling a prescription and filling the fridge, and making sure an 82-year-old widow can afford to stay in the community where she has lived for decades. This bill also benefits Maryland's broader economy and fiscal health. When retirees leave Maryland, they do not just take their stories and their community engagement with them, they take their tax base, income tax, sales tax, property tax, fuel tax, and their day-to-day spending in local businesses. Retirees support small businesses, faith communities, nonprofits, and civic organizations. Keeping them here strengthens local economies in every county and city. In a time when our state is concerned about revenue softening and population stagnation, retaining older residents is not just compassionate policy, it is sound economic strategy. HB 902 is also carefully crafted to be fiscally responsible. The credit is non-refundable. It can only reduce taxes owed, not generate a cash payout. It does not carry forward to future years, and it cannot be stacked with Maryland's existing senior tax credit, ensuring we do not overlap or duplicate benefits. These safeguards ensure that the program is targeted and controlled. The fiscal note indicates that implementation will require modest administrative resources in the comptroller's office relative to the scale of the benefit and the number of seniors who stand to gain. Colleagues, this bill is about our values as much as our budget. Do we want Maryland to be a place where residents who have worked and contributed here their entire lives can age in place with stability and dignity? Or do we accept a status quo where they feel compelled to move to more tax-friendly states in their final decades of life? For me, this is not an abstract policy question. My own father, whom some of you met just a few days ago, moved to Florida 19 years ago. And my family and I would love to bring him home, but the honest truth is that for him and for many like him, Maryland is simply too expensive in retirement. HB 902 is one step forward toward making sure that families like mine do not have to watch their loved ones spend their final years in another state because they cannot afford to grow old in the place they call home. HB 902 says clearly that Maryland chooses to stand with its seniors. It says that we see the people who built this state, staffed its schools and hospitals, ran its small businesses, served in its federal facilities, and we are not willing to watch them be priced out of their communities. I am proud to join my Senate colleague in advancing this cross-filed effort, and I'm grateful for the strong support from senior advocacy organizations, including the National Active and Retired Federal Employees, as well as from senior communities across my district. I respectfully ask for a favorable report on HB 902 so that together we can help Marylanders retire in Maryland and not be forced to retire from Maryland. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, go next. My name is Paul Schwartz. I'm Region Vice President of the National Active and Retired Federal Employees, North, and I testify today in support of HB 902. As you are all abundantly aware, Maryland once again faced a budget shortfall. According to our Comptroller, Brooke Lehrman, a significant portion of the decline in revenue can be attributed to a decline in population. A significant contributing factor to that decline is retirees, as is pointed out, moving to more tax-friendly states such as Delaware and Pennsylvania and Florida, and taking their tax money, including income tax, sales tax, property tax, fuel tax, as well as spending power with them. Keep in mind, for seniors, they don't save for the future, because for the seniors, the future is now. They spend their money, and when they leave, they spend it elsewhere than Maryland. HB 902 helps to some extent to stem the tide of that senior migration out of our state and make Maryland a bit more affordable for seniors to help keep them in Maryland. Combine senior migration with Maryland losing some 15,000 federal jobs as a result of the assault on the federal workforce by the Trump administration and its associated impact on Maryland tax revenue. People without jobs don't pay taxes. Keeping retirees in Maryland becomes even more urgent. During the last gubernatorial election year in Maryland, we were able to get past the Retirement Tax Elimination Act of 2022, which was a major step in the right direction by giving a tax credit to seniors. House Bill 902 builds on that legislation by allowing that graduated ability for eligible federal adjusted gross income for starting at age 77. At least let's do something for seniors starting at 77 years of age, as the bill does, as this bill does in this gubernatorial election year. Accordingly, we fully support HB 902. And just one last thing, keep in mind that the fiscal note does not reflects the number of people impacted by the bill and the amount of revenue that would be lost this tax year, but it doesn't factor in all the other years when they're leaving the state. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No problem. Delegate Mary Kuno.
Oh, so here, okay. All right, it's not, oh, it's work? No, it's not working. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Hello. Okay, is it working? Thank you, Delegate, for bringing the bill. I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond if you were able to catch the Maryland Center for Economic Policy's opposition. They particularly noted that this bill, and I quote, would do nothing for seniors with low income. Can you speak on that? Or if you haven't already had a conversation with them, would you entertain a possible discussion with them on this bill regarding their concerns?
So well, no, I have not had a conversation with them, but what I would say is that, this bill explicitly prohibits stacking the credit with, existing senior tax credits. So we avoid the duplication, but second, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Well, no, essentially, the Maryland Center for Economic Policy is noting that, that we have 8 tax breaks for senior citizens already costing $1 billion, but they do mention in particular that it does nothing for seniors with low income, most of whom do not owe state income tax in the first place. But just want to see if you would entertain a conversation with this particular stakeholder on this issue regarding their concerns.
Sure. Okay. So, well, yes, I would definitely entertain a conversation with them. But what I also would say is that, there are already mechanisms in place in our state that do address services and assistance for people with low income. And are you talking about specifically for people who are their issue with under the age, like why we didn't start with below 77?
Well, I'm just going based on what they wrote in the report. So I'm assuming that, but I'm just going based on what they wrote in their testimony.
Yeah. So, and that's that is kind of what I was getting from what they noted in their notes, and like if I were to, if someone who were under the age of 77 or below whatever the, below the age restrictions, I just would note that Maryland already has several programs that do begin earlier in retirement, and this bill complements those, and it does not replaces those.
Thank you.
But I am absolutely, definitely, I would have a conversation with them as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 902. Next up, we'll go to a Montgomery County delegation bill, House Bill 1084, presented by Delegate Polakovich-Carr, the wonderful leader and chair of the Montgomery County delegation.
Was a witness missed maybe on that last bill, Madam Chair?
No, he's on this one too.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Sorry for the confusion. We're going to the Montgomery County delegation bill, and then we'll go to Delegate Maricopa North. No problem.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for circling back at me while I was testifying in another committee. For the record, I'm Delegate Julie Polakovich-Carr, here to present House Bill 1084 in my capacity as chair of the Montgomery County House delegation. This local bill would give my school district more flexibility in how they make up snow days. The bill was requested by the Montgomery County Board of Education and has the support of our school superintendent and our county executive, and was voted out unanimously by my delegation. The bill has its origins in last school year. Severe winter weather forced MCPS to close schools multiple times. The district sought a waiver from the state so that they wouldn't have to make up some of the snow days, but that request was denied. State law requires schools to operate for a minimum of 180 days and at least 1,080 hours. Looking back over the past 5 school years, MCPS has met both criteria, but significantly exceeded the state requirements for annual hours of school operation. In the case of last school year, although MCPS had already exceeded the hours requirement, they would have been short on school days because of the closures due to winter weather. In order to comply with state law, MCPS then extended the school year by 2 early release days. As some of you may know, I actually am a substitute teacher for Montgomery County Public Schools when we aren't in session. And I was subbing in a local high school on those 2 extra days of school at the end of the school year. I can tell you almost no students came to school. I had some periods where there were no students present at all. I think the most students I had in any period, and this was at the high school level, between those 2 days was 3 students in a class. Attendance was abysmal. So even for the students that came to school, no learning was happening because all of their assignments were already due. They'd already been graded. All the standardized tests were done. There really was no work left for students to do. This wasn't just a waste of people's time. It came with real costs. The school district had to pay $1.75 million in additional personnel costs. Moreover, the abysmal student attendance cut in half the district's improvements in chronic absenteeism for the entire school year, all for a box checking exercise. Unfortunately, MCPS is facing an even bigger challenge for this school year. In wake of the big storm from a few weeks ago, the district closed for 5 days because it was unsafe or even impossible for students to get to school. Even when schools did reopen, more than 50 bus routes were affected by snow and ice. Sections of these routes were impassable to school buses. Moreover, 1 in 5 MCPS students walk to school. Many of these students, my 5th grade son included, struggled with finding a safe walking route that didn't involve walking in the road. MCPS recently applied for a waiver from the state to not make up some of these school days. That waiver has been denied, which leaves my district with no good options for how to comply with state law except to extend the school year significantly at an additional cost of $6 to $8 million and risking interference with the primary elections that will take place on June 23rd. Approximately 200 public schools serve as polling sites in Montgomery County. Our local school board and superintendent have been working hard to minimize the fallout of these snow days, but given the severe nature of this storm, they need legislative help. This bill, as it was heavily amended in my delegation, would allow MCPS to meet the state requirement for either school days or school hours, so long as the board's original calendar for the school year meets both requirements, and that the flexibility is needed to make up school closures due to severe weather. The amendments also require that the district make up at least 2 school days using contingency days. The bill is now an emergency bill and has a sunset date after next school year. And the committee has a copy of these amendments. And additionally, I did have my delegation administrator email out those amendments to everyone on the committee yesterday. So with that, I thank you for your consideration of this local bill.
Thank you so much, Delegate and Chair of the delegation, for presenting the bill. We do have a question from Delegate Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for bringing the bill. I absolutely 100% understand your frustration and your school system's frustration. I think a lot of school systems, especially if those denials are coming hot and heavy, that will be in a similar situation. My only question is around the 1170 hours for high school requirement. Is this changing that? Because I'm kind of confused about some of the references, and we can. Yeah, that's the only part I kind of was wondering.
Yeah, so there are some additional amendments forthcoming to the committee that should lock in place and not change those hours requirements. So it's under the new set of amendments, the schools would still have to meet for a minimum of 175 days and the existing hours requirements as they are in COMAR, which are a little higher in some cases than what's in statute.
Right. I so appreciate that. Thank you very much for addressing.
Thank you so much, Delegate. All right, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you so much, Madam Chair.
And Madam Chair, I did have another bill that was my own bill, HB 735, that we'd also skipped over since I was out of committee.
Yes, let's take that one as well. House Bill 735. We'll start that bill hearing. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. Again, for the record, Delegate Julie Polakovich-Carr here to present House Bill 735. In the 2022 legislative session, Senator King and I sponsored a bill to make it easier for low-income Marylanders to claim the state's Earned Income Tax Credit, the EITC. The EITC is considered to be one of America's most effective anti-poverty efforts, yet 18% of eligible Marylanders don't claim the credit. That bill, which was signed into law, directed the Comptroller's Office to identify eligible Marylanders who did not claim the state EITC tax credit and to provide them with a streamlined mechanism to do so. The Comptroller's Office planned to implement the bill using the federal direct file program, which provided taxpayers an easy and free way to file their federal and state income tax returns. Unfortunately, the direct file program was eliminated by the Trump administration. The termination of direct file has left Maryland without the tools needed to implement my 2022 bill at this time. So this bill pushes off the implementation date until tax year 2030. In the meantime, the bill directs the Comptroller's Office to study opportunities for enhancing their outreach on the EITC. Additionally, the bill directs the Maryland Department of Service and Civic Innovation to explore opportunities for their service year participants to help low-income residents claim the EITC and other state tax credits. And that effort would build on an existing pilot program. In conclusion, although I do not relish having to delay implementation of a bill that I previously worked hard on to get passed, I do recognize the need for this delay, and I just think this is trying to make lemonade out of the lemons that have been handed to us by the federal government. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions? All right, hearing no questions, seeing no buttons on, we will end the hearing on House Bill 735. Thank you so much. We will now go to Delegate Maricopa North, House Bill 745, Income Tax Senior Credit Refundability. And we do have Paul Schwartz signed up on this one.
And Madam Chair, I'm going to have, oh, I forgot. Okay, I'll do this. I'm going to have my legacy fellow who's worked dutifully on this bill to lead in the testimony. I'll be here to back her up, answer any questions that the committee may have. And just say your name for the record.
Oh, sure. Good afternoon, everyone, Madam Chair and members. I'm Smitty Kumar, and I work in Delegate Miraku North's office. I am very pleased to be here today to offer testimony in favor of House Bill 745, Income Tax Senior Tax Credit Refundability. This legislation seeks to strengthen the senior tax credit that was enacted in 2022 by making it refundable. Under current law, eligible seniors can only reduce their tax bill to zero with any remaining credit lost. This bill ensures that when the value of the credit exceeds a senior's tax liability, the remaining balance is refunded, putting real dollars back into the pockets of our seniors, especially those on lower fixed incomes. This bill is meeting the moment as we seek more affordable living for our senior population. With housing costs, food costs, healthcare costs on the rise, seniors would benefit by making this senior tax credit refundable to help them keep up with increased cost of living and to support older Marylanders who wish to age in place. The bill provides a $1,000 state income tax credit for individual Maryland residents age 65 or older whose federal adjusted gross income is below $100,000. It also provides a $1,750 credit for married couples filing jointly whose federal adjusted gross income is below $150,000. Currently, Maryland's state and local tax system remains regressive in practice. By this, we mean that lower income households pay a larger share of their earnings than the very wealthy. According to the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, the poorest 20% of Marylanders pay approximately 9.7% of their income to state and local taxes, while the richest 1% pay about 6.7%. The middle group of earners pay 10.8 to 12%, underscoring the skewed burden. This structure compounds existing racial disparities in income and wealth. Today, according to the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, the median household income for Black and African American Marylanders is $79,000 compared to $110,000 for white Marylanders. There is a higher poverty rate for Black Marylanders at 13.6% versus 6.5% for white Marylanders. According to the data from the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development, Black and Hispanic renters have slightly higher levels of households that are severely cost burdened. And that the definition of that is that they spend more than 50% of their income on housing. The severely cost burden rate is 27% for both Black and Hispanic renters and is 23% for white renters. This senior tax credit would help low wealth taxpayers of all racial and ethnic backgrounds, and it would specifically assist those who are the most cost burdened and will help to address the racial wealth gap present in Maryland. We acknowledge that the fiscal note is pretty hefty, and so we're open to amending the bill to make it more affordable for the state while still helping our seniors through the tax credit program, including some of the things we're looking at is giving counties the authority to create their own refundable senior tax credits, reducing the refundable credit amount, or limiting refundability to those who do not receive a property tax exemption, as is done in other states. Just as an example, many states and the District of Columbia offer a refundable senior tax credit. They all do it a little differently. Just a couple of examples. Colorado has a fully refundable tax credit, which is available to residents resident individuals age 65 or older who meet specific income thresholds but who have not claimed the property tax exemption. Michigan has a senior income tax credit that is structured as a credit against the state income tax liability for senior citizens, with the amount determined by household resources and property taxes or rent paid on their primary residence. There are several others that we have looked at. By making the senior tax credit refundable in Maryland, House Bill 745 seeks to provide relief to those who need it most. It is a targeted and meaningful way to support seniors who have contributed to our communities and our economy for decades. And for these reasons, we respectfully urge a favorable report with amendments on House Bill 745. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You can go ahead.
Okay. My name is still Paul Schwartz, and I believe I'm still Region Vice President for North. I will try to avoid repeating the testimony I just gave maybe like 7 minutes ago, but I want to start by saying that Maryland is a high-priced state. The 2026 State Tax Competitiveness Index full study placed Maryland as number 46 of the 50 states as the worst place in which to retire. What HB 745 has in common with HB 902 and HB 707, and even if Delegate Buckles was here, his bill from last week when he tried to have a bill that increased the standard deduction at the state level, what they all have in common is they're trying to make Maryland a little bit more affordable, especially for seniors, to be able to continue to stay here. What I want to actually talk about is the other thing they have in common is that it's the fiscal note. The reason these bills never get passed is because of the fiscal note. The thing with the fiscal note, which I started talking about in the last session a few minutes ago, is that the way Legislative Services calculates it is they calculate the number of people directly impacted, the amount of tax revenue that they account for, and when they add that up, that is the cost to the revenue of Maryland. What they don't factor in is the fact that we were talking about before, when the seniors or anyone else leaves the state and takes all that buying power with them, that should be factored over a long period of time, and there is nothing in the fiscal note that reflects the loss of revenue when these people leave the state. So anything that is able to keep them here actually improves the economy of Maryland rather than takes Maryland having the economy take a hit. So that is a major problem, and it has to be addressed. If it wasn't a problem, we wouldn't be seeing all these bills come forward for basically the same purpose: keep the seniors in Maryland. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. And you did an excellent job representing Delegate Merrick New York. Great job. All right. Do we have any questions on this bill? Okay. Seeing no questions, that ends the bill hearing on House Bill 745. Next up is House Bill 717. I understand we have a staff member from Delegate Eelson's office. Wonderful. Please come on up. And I have 4 witnesses signed up on this bill. Nick Manis, Brandon Etheridge, Lisa Jones, and Gabriel Artori. And you can start. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Wilkins and esteemed members of the Ways and Means Committee. For the record, I am Marley Mielich, presenting HB 717 on behalf of Delegate Edelson. His apologies that he can't be here, but like I said on Tuesday, he's at home taking care of his newborn son. You may remember Delegate Edelson bringing a similar bill before this committee last year, which would permit 50-50 raffles to be conducted at all Orioles home games. Up until that point, only 12 raffles could be conducted in a year. These raffles are a really fun way to engage with the game, and because half of the proceeds go to a charitable organization in Baltimore City, they are a fantastic way to support the phenomenal work of our local organizations. Delegate Edelson was successful in passing that bill last year. This year, he is bringing a similar bill to permit the same kind of 50-50 raffles at Ravens home games. In addition to that, this bill also lifts the sunset provision created by the last bill. HB 717 is supported by the Baltimore City House delegation. I would like to turn it over to Delegate Edelson's panel to discuss the specific parameters of the raffles and their applications. Thank you so much for your consideration, and Delegate Edelson urges a favorable report on HB 717.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, Nick Manis with Manis Cannon and Associates representing the Baltimore Ravens. We're here in support of House Bill 717. We'd like to thank Delegate Edelson and also the Baltimore City delegation and also the Mayor's office in Baltimore City for supporting it. Of course, the Ravens have a different schedule than the Orioles. We have 10 games. Hopefully we have 2 more or 3 more when we make the playoffs. The difference in our bill, difference than ours and the Orioles is instead of 1 hour before the game, we have 4.5 hours, which coordinates with our tailgate when our tailgate lots open up. So that's one difference. And then our area where our parking lots are, that area is a little bigger because we just, they're not contiguous. So our geofence area is a little bigger, and that's all described in the bill. The money would go to the Ravens Foundation, which mission is to improve, encourage, and enable the healthy development of youth in the Baltimore area. It focuses on providing financial and volunteer support for programs addressing education, athletics, mentoring, and hunger and housing. And just a few of the things that the foundation does, they built new state-of-the-art playgrounds with Kaboom. They bought homes with Habitat for Humanity. They participate in Baltimore City School renovations with Heart of America. They provide scholarships with College Bound Foundation. They also have the Ravens Bookmobile program alongside the Maryland Book Bank. And they provide multi-year grants to nonprofits such as Bridges Baltimore, Next One Up, Den Education, Weekend Backpacks, Junior Achievement, Paul's Place, and many other programs. So what this raffle would do is support the foundation and those types of programs.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Gabriel Auteri with Harris, Jones, and Malone here on behalf of the Baltimore Orioles. I won't repeat what's been said. We're obviously very grateful to Delegate Edelson for bringing this bill and to the Baltimore delegation. I just want to highlight some of the successes that Delegate Edelson's legislation from last year supported. Last year, through the raffle program and through the charitable contributions that the Orioles made through the raffle program, the Orioles were able to support important local nonprofits like the Northwood Baseball League, which serves the Northwood community and the surrounding neighborhoods in Baltimore City. I know we've got some delegates on this committee, Delegate Addison, Delegate Young. It's right in your backyard. It supported the Enoch Pratt Free Library, which operates 25 libraries across the city. It supported Just Empower Kids, which works with children and families facing pediatric cancer in Maryland. It supported Pathfinders for Autism, which educates and trains community members to support and improve the lives of individuals with autism and their families. And it was used to support Beloved Community Services Corporation, a nonprofit focused on economic development and community support services in Central West Baltimore. These are just some of the ways that the funds for the raffle program have been used. But it's this bill and expanding it to allow the Ravens to do the same is important. And so we're here to request a favorable report on HB 717. Thank you so much.
And Brendan Etheridge here, he's general counsel for the Ravens. Be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
All right, I see a question from Delegate Ebersol.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing the bill. I go to both of those games, and I enjoy them a lot. I can't usually be drawn into the 50-50, but sometimes I do. We had a bill like this last year where we were doing something, and I'm not sure what this is doing new. I know that part of it was the method of payment was at issue. We solved that. Is that correct? Okay. Is there anything else that's new in this bill that we're back with? Because that was what we did. We limited the number of days, so it's just more days in a greater area. Is that what we're doing here?
The calendar year.
Yeah, so for the, of course, Ravens weren't included. So it's so this year they are. And instead of 1 hour before a baseball game, it's 4.5 hours.
Longer period of time.
Yes, yes.
And maybe for the Orioles, more days, is that correct?
So what this does for the Orioles is, number one, and most critically, it removes the sunset provision. This Delegate Edelson's bill last year was had a 1 year sunset.
Thank you.
That's obviously pretty important.
And are you freed up to do it? We limited the number of games, more or less.
We're able to do it on game days.
Everyone now.
Correct.
All 80, if
Correct,
you get
as
through
of
them,
last year.
all 81 of them, right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Technical difficulty, awesome, thank you. Thank you. And just a quick question, so the 4.5 hours is because the lot's open 4.5 hours early, so people like me who tailgate every game in the BC lot will be able to participate fully in this program?
Yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Delegate Wims.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to ask, especially with the Orioles, since you've had it, tell me, how does it actually work? How do the people do the 50-50? What would an individual like me to come to a game, how would I participate?
So my understanding is that there's tickets for sale, and then you can also participate on your phone if you're within the geo-fenced boundary. But I'm happy to follow up after and give you an exact kind of blow.
I had a follow-up question. I know my good friends from the Ravens know this question. Do they sometimes, can you take cash for those tickets, or is it all phone and so forth? Or you could take cash?
My understanding is that, yes, you could take cash.
Good. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. I don't see any other questions on this bill, and I believe we've heard from all the witnesses, so that ends the bill hearing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Delegate Ebersol, House Bill 731. Delegate, I do have 4 people signed up on your bill. Let me get to them on my list. Okay, well, 2 are in favor.
Yeah, not everybody's in favor.
Okay, all right, so we have our 2 favorable witnesses. Okay, you can start when you're ready.
Let me get a little blue over here. There we go. Thank you. And now as we enter the gambling phase of our afternoon, we just heard one bill. I'm bringing a bill that is similar to, but not identical to, a bill that you had last year. This is a bill that moves into the region between what we call beer and chips fantasy leagues and what we call out-and-out sports wagering, okay? And there's a company out there already that does this sort of thing. What the general idea is that if you've played sports, if you've ever done a fantasy league, you know, you assemble a team and players earn a certain amount of points based on what they do. And then if you earn more points than another team by another player, another person playing the fantasy league, then you win for that week against them. The idea here is that this company knows how to, and other companies could do this as well, assemble a group of people into a series of rooms, if you will, and in there they will pick players and various things in sports, and we're already ready to amend it so they are in a particular sport in this case. It doesn't say that in the bill, but that's been suggested by State Lottery and Gaming, and we think that's a fine idea. And instead of just looking at how they do, giving them a certain number of points, if they get 20 yards running or 40 yards running, they get points. Rather, you establish what the company likes to call a higher or lower, or what we would call in sports wagering world, an over-under. And you can kind of push the knob up and down for how high you want to go. And you earn more points if you predict that someone's going to get over 100 yards rushing. Instead, you push it up to 120 and they get that. You score a little better than other people do. And ultimately, you earn more points. and everybody pays to get in, and the winner will get some money. The company can actually set up so people who win or come in second place win money. That's all made clear when you enter the room originally, what it is you're going to get and what's available to you. I bring these bills for a specific reason. We can increase our revenue if we do them, okay? This is another way to attract people in a slightly different way into the world of sports wagering or into the world of fantasy sports. And as I say, we're in kind of a gray area between the two because we're using a sort of a sports wagering style, but we're doing it in a fantasy setting. And the bill currently calls for $50,000 a year for a license. The company involved has said that they're willing to be flexible on that, and perhaps we can earn more. Also, they would, of course, be taxed at the rate that fantasy sports, not fantasy sports, excuse me, sports wagering platforms are taxed at, so we would realize that tax. I looked at the fiscal note. It only clears a certain amount of money, but that's based basically on the fees. And they say rather cavalierly in the middle of it, revenues would increase significantly more from fantasy competition proceeds, and proceeds would be from the amount of winnings from the amount that they actually get for people playing, that they pay the 15 or 20% tax rate that we charge them on these. That's enough out of me. I will let the advocates for them speak for them also.
There we go. Good. Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Matthew Pica, and I'm here in support of House Bill 731. Since sports wagering and fantasy competitions shared the gaming space in 2022 in Maryland, the results have diverged. In 2022, sports wagering revenue was $19 million, and fantasy competition revenue was $17 million. By the end of 2025, in that year, sports wagering revenue had grown to $577 million, while fantasy competition revenue had declined to $7 million. The General Assembly established a fantasy framework, and these contests originally operated in Maryland in 2022. Subsequent regulatory interpretation excluded pick'em and over-under style formats, even when structured as peer-to-peer contests. This effectively prevented modern fantasy formats from operating in the state. This bill clarifies that these peer-to-peer contests are regulated under Subtitle 1D. Participants pay an entry fee, assemble a roster, compete solely against other participants. Prizes are disclosed in advance. The operator does not accept wagers, set odds, or assume risk on the outcomes of sporting events. Participants are not wagering against a sporting event outcome. They are competing against other participants in a contest. Using comparable data from other states, we estimate that this modernization could generate 10 to 15 million in additional fantasy competition revenue annually, while also allowing the revenue to start increasing from year to year rather than the decline it has been on for the past 3. Thank you for your time, and I respectfully request a favorable report.
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the committee. John Pica on behalf of Dabble and the Fantasy and Sports Gaming Association. What this bill is trying to do is legal in 34 states. You can play daily fantasy right now in Maryland, but this creates a different model. The Lottery and Gaming Control Agency had 2 major objections last year. One was the low fee, and the second one was the last year's bill allowed the participant to play against the house. This, the licensing fee on this bill is $50,000 as opposed to $1,000, and this would only allow peer-to-peer daily fantasy as opposed to against the house. So we've been working with the Lottery and Gaming Control Agency to try to work something out, and we're having good discussions, and we hopefully will get to a point where we have reached an understanding. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Delegate, for this bill. Question from Delegate Hornberger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't look at the report, but are you cleared to not require another ballot question from the AG's office as a new form of gambling?
I don't believe it would require one, no.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
It's an excellent question, though.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions, this panel, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
We do have several testifying in opposition.
Thank you.
Frank Boston and Kevin Cochran.
Kevin, you go first. Okay. I'll let the client go first if it's okay.
Chair Wilkins, Vice Chair Feldmark, and members of the committee, DraftKings Incorporated wants to thank the House and Ways Means Committee for the opportunity to provide testimony on House Bill 731. For the record, my name is Kevin Cochran. It is our position that House Bill 731 would create an opportunity to muddy the permissible contest types in the state as it relates to fantasy contests, when currently the Maryland Lottery and Gaming Control Agency has set forth clear guidance. In fact, this was in March 2022. The MLGCA sent a letter to all registered fantasy sports operators in the state explaining that fantasy competitions in which players compete against the fantasy contest or competition operator instead of other players are not compliant with Maryland law, and also clarified the types of contests that are in scope for the state. DraftKings generally supports the fantasy contest language as drafted in the Unlawful Internet Gambling and Enforcement Act, which many people shorten to a confusing word, UGA. This is the appropriate and well-established foundation for defining fantasy competitions in state law, and in fact is what Maryland currently uses for its definition of fantasy sports. The UGA framework provides clear, workable criteria that distinguish fantasy contests from gambling by focusing on skill-based outcomes, predetermined prizes, and results that reflect the relative knowledge and judgment of participants rather than chance or the performance of a single athlete or team. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit of my testimony to make sure I hit the most important point in my last 26 seconds, but House Bill 731 amends the definition of fantasy competition into something that is not recognizable compared to most definitions of fantasy contests or competitions around the country. It deviates significantly from GIA, particularly by the new subsection 2, Roman numerat 2, related to bonus payments or bonus payouts, which could create a scenario that moves further and further away from the traditional spirit of fantasy competitions. Thank you for your time today.
For the record, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Frank Boston. I'm here in opposition to the bill and my very good friend Delegate Ebersole, but the bill is problematic for the reasons that my counterpart, Mr. Kevin Cochran, highlighted. I have nothing to add to his testimony, but we'll stand for questions. But we do oppose this bill. It does cross the line, and it's not just DFS, daily fantasy sports. It becomes sports betting, and that therein lies our concerns. And if they're going to do sports betting, they need to be regulated like sports betting, just like everyone else who's a member of the Sports Betting Alliance. And for those reasons, we oppose.
Thank you so much. Any questions for this panel of witnesses? Okay, seeing none, that's all the testimony on this bill. And that ends the bill hearing for House Bill 731. Just a moment, I need to check in on something before calling the next bill. Okay, we need to switch the order a little bit because Delegate Hornberger needs to go to another committee. We're going to take House Bill 758 next, problem gambling, authorized uses of funds. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for that indulgence. Don't want to mess up the schedule of the committee today. For the record, and I'm going to go ahead and bring my panel too to expedite this. Delegate Kevin Hornberger here on behalf of HB 758, problem gambling, authorized use of funds alterations. So what this bill seeks to do is opt in another group of folks that are tremendously impactful and helpful when it comes to addiction counseling, which is a certified peer recovery specialist. Now you may be asking, why is this type of bill in Ways and Means? And it's because it impacts the problem gaming fund. 2 reasons for this bill. One, we have identified locally in Cecil County, you all have heard me get up on the floor numerous times about how we've been disproportionately impacted by substance use. And secondly, in this committee, we've heard audits over the last few years about the problem gaming fund. And what those audits have indicated is that overwhelmingly, a plurality of the dollars that go into that fund do not go to treat patients. I want to repeat that. The audits have found that over half of the funds in the problem gaming fund do not go towards treatment of addiction. I've actually included some supplemental material that you'll see in your packet, and I'd like to draw your attention to page 35 and 36 of the report, which I have here pictured, and you all have for the record. But as you will see when you bring up the report, the vast majority of the funds are going to University of Maryland for studies and research. We can all argue to the efficacy of that. However, it's of no surprise that the only letter of opposition in your packet is from University of Maryland. So we have some folks here today that were nice enough to spend some time and come down. They're going to talk a little bit more about the model and why we need the ability to access these funds. Because when someone identifies that they have a problem gambling issue, more often than not, that is tied to either alcohol or substance use as well. And this will give those individuals the ability to triage and treat all of the addiction and seek a cure so that we have a lower recidivism rate when it comes to addiction. So with that, I'll turn it over to the panel. Go in any order that you all want. Just identify you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee. My name is Tammy Bradford. I am a peer recovery specialist with Voices of Hope in Harford County. I am a person in long-term recovery. As of November 24th, I celebrated 6 years in recovery. Addiction can look like chaos with no way out. Every day at Voices of Hope, we walk alongside individuals struggling with multiple forms of addiction. Addiction is not limited to one substance or behavior. It can show up through substance use, gambling, eating disorders, shopping, and many other forms. At its core, addiction is addiction. The funds are generated by casinos and gambling institutions are intended to address the harms associated with addiction. Restricting those funds to only one category ignores the reality of addiction actually works. HB 0758 simply recognizes what those in recovery already know. Addiction does not exist in silos. Gambling addiction in particular can be invisible. It looks like something sitting in front of a glowing screen or a quiet table, believing the next spin, the next card, the next bet will finally change everything. It's not just money, it's about the illusion of control, the belief that we try one more time, we can outsmart the odds. What begins as entertainment can slowly become dependence. The brain starts chasing the rush. Over time, it no longer is about winning. It's about escaping stress, loneliness, and pain. And in that escape, people lose more than money. They lose trust, relationships, stability, and sometimes themselves. Addiction is not a moral failure. It is a mental health issue, and recovery is possible. When we treat addiction as a whole person issue instead of a siloed problem, we save the lives and stabilize families. Because the real win isn't beating the odds. It's choosing recovery. I am standing here today because someone supported all my recovery issues, not just one part of it. Others deserve the same chance. So I respectfully urge a favorable report on HB 0758. Thank you.
Great job.
My name is Hannah Papillo. I'm a peer recovery specialist with Voices of Hope in Harford County. I'm also a person in recovery. Next month, I will celebrate 4 years free from addiction. Addiction has affected my life in many forms, including substance use disorder, alcohol use disorder, gambling disorder, and major depressive disorder. I'm in recovery from all of these conditions, which is why I'm here today in strong support of House Bill 758. Addiction affects the whole person in every area of life, as well as their family. It often stems from trauma, environment, and social influences. It cannot be separated into categories like gambling or just substance use, because these behaviors frequently overlap and intertwine. In my experience, addiction meant using substances, alcohol, or gambling in excessive ways to achieve excitement or escape, and involved many failed attempts to stop. Constant mental fixation, time spent obtaining or funding these behaviors, chasing losses, dishonesty, and putting myself in dangerous situations. I risked and lost relationships, education, and work opportunities because of gambling, drug use, and alcoholism. These addictions are deeply interconnected and equally harmful. At Voices of Hope, we serve individuals every single day with multiple co-occurring disorders. Some seek help for substance use and discover that gambling has devastated their finances and their mental health. Others struggling with gambling relapse into drug use as a coping mechanism, especially dangerous given today's unpredictable drug supply. Effective treatment must be integrated. Evidence-based approaches address co-occurring disorders, underlying drivers such as impulsivity, psychiatric conditions, and behavioral addictions together. There is substantial overlap across addiction types, whether gambling, alcohol, or drugs. Funds generated by casinos and gambling institutions are meant to address addiction-related harms. Restricting those funds to only one category ignores the reality from the people suffering from multiple conditions. House Bill 758 recognizes addiction is addiction regardless of form. This bill allows organizations like Voices of Hope access to funding to provide peer recovery, treatment, navigation, and harm reduction support that treats the whole person. I'm here today because despite many serious overlapping challenges, I was treated like a whole person and supported in my healing. Everyone struggling with addiction deserves the same comprehensive care and opportunity for recovery. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rogelio Valera, and I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I support this bill because it ensures funds generated from gambling are used responsibly to help people who may be harmed by it. Problem gambling is a real addiction that affects individuals, families, and communities, often leading to financial hardship, mental health struggles, and relationship damage. By expanding and clarifying how these funds can be used, this legislation strengthens prevention, treatment, and recovery efforts. It allows resources to reach people earlier and more effectively, which ultimately saves money for the state and improves lives. If we are going to benefit from gambling revenue, we also have the responsibility to invest in solutions for the harm it can cause. Passing the bill is a step towards healthier and more accountable systems. And I would request a favorable decision in House Bill 0758. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Aaron Wright. I am the General Program Manager for Voices of Hope, but first and foremost, I am a person with severe substance use disorder. At least that's what my diagnosis was. So using drugs for 23 years and ending up homeless and losing all my family relationships, I thought that was it. That was drugs. But since I've been clean for about 11 years, if you ask my wife why there are 12 boxes of Adidas sneakers still unopened in my closet, why I happen to have 33 fishing poles, why I have a boat when I take it out, I want a bigger one, why when I drive off a truck off the lot, I want another one, right? And why when I get my team members a dozen donuts from Dunkin' Donuts, there always seems to be 4 missing. Not sure why. I have addiction. Point blank, period. I have to live with that addiction for the rest of my life. It comes out in ways and means in which I never even saw possible. And when we're talking about addiction, it cannot be siloed because it is the individual's characteristics and behaviors that we have to treat. As my colleagues have said, it's the whole person. We don't silo mental health with substance use, do we? Right? It's all behavioral health. But this is the same thing. So any addiction, any recovery community-based organization that helps people survive and recover from addiction should have equal access to these funds. So I request that you vote favorable for House Bill 758. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Wilkins, Vice Chairperson Feldmark, and distinguished members of the House Ways Means Committee. Like Aaron said, last I checked, I got about 78 pairs of sneakers in my house and counting. And that wasn't even my main addiction when I started my journey in recovery. One thing about me, I kind of knew to stay away from gambling because I know how dangerous the idea of one is too many, but 1,000 is never enough. Like once kind of those things get going, it's like it's just hard to stop. And I've been a peer at Voices of Hope for the last 11 months now. And if somebody came in looking for help and they said their problem was this, but, oh, we can only help you with this, or your problem was that, but we can only do this, then that's very detrimental to a person. Like, I don't know where to go for help. I respectfully submit that this grant should be available to any recovery support organization serving our communities. Addiction in all its forms is addiction. It does not exist in isolation. Individuals and families affected by substance use and other addictive disorders deserve comprehensive, inclusive support systems that recognize the full scope of this public health challenge. By opening this grant to all qualified recovery organizations, we empower communities to provide meaningful, accessible support to individuals struggling with addiction of any kind. Such an approach strengthens our collective efforts and ensures that no one seeking recovery is left behind. Thank you for your time and consideration. I respectfully ask for a favorable report on HB 758. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson Wilkins and Vice Chair Feldmark and members of the House and Ways Committee. I am Sue Ann Blumberg. I am the CEO at Upper Bay Counseling and Support Services. We serve about 3,000 clients a year, from early childhood through seniors. We serve both Cecil and Harford counties, providing an array of services. We are in support of House Bill 758, which would provide reimbursement through gambling funds for certified peer recovery specialists. The folks from Voices of Hope have done a remarkable job. My organization is behavioral health, so we are more on the mental health side of it. None of these things walk alone. Most of the folks that go into recovery from an addiction also have a co-occurring mental health disorder and vice versa. So it very much, these two illnesses work together. But I do want to tell you peer support, that it involves emotional support, respect, empowerment, shared responsibility, hope, and self-determination by using, and these folks talked about it, lived experience, knowledge to support those in early recovery from substance and mental health issues or behavioral health issues. Peer support is recognized as an evidence-based practice and an essential component to recovery-focused practices. Research shows that the use of peers in behavioral health settings improves outcomes, reduces costs through reductions in hospitalizations, ER visits, improves clients' quality of life on quality of life measures. So with all of this said, I urge a favorable report for House Bill 758. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Delegate Hornberger, are there any questions of our colleagues? Thank you very much, panelists, for your personal testimony. It's really impactful. And if there are no more questions, this concludes House Bill 758, problem gambling. All
Yeah, I
right.
think we're at HB 887 next.
Delegate Hornberger, we're ready for House Bill 887.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and again, thank you for the indulgence to go out of order here. HB
This is a
887.
joint bill with Ways and Means, Delegate Tolles, Watson, and Grist. They're on their way.
On their way.
But you can proceed.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Yes, Delegate Kevin Hornberger here for HB 887. This bill deals with our local video lottery terminal. As many of you know, the casino located in Cecil County was one of the first. And as a result, there was some deals struck for both the town of Perryville, in which the casino resides, and you guys can all come up, as well as the county itself. So what this bill seeks to do is that there is also a carve out for, as many of you know, prior to casinos, the only form of gambling was horse racing in Maryland, and those tracks were struggling. And as a result of the grand bargain, some of those funds got set aside for purse dedication. Well, roughly 20 years ago, the deal was struck for $100,000 roughly to come from that fund to go to purses at Fair Hill. That number is not adjusted for inflation or changed over the years, and as you can imagine, in 20 years, $100,000 doesn't buy quite what it did 20 years ago. So after 2 or 3 years of talking to folks in both lottery and other state organizations, one of the recommendations that was made was take money directly from the VLT fund. If you look at the fiscal note, I would draw your attention to page 3, where it gives the breakdown of the proposed numbers. And as you can see, we're on any given year, we're getting roughly about $4.2 million in total. And this bill would carve out an additional $200,000, which would go directly to purses for races at Fair Hill. Many of you actually been to the track, and you know that we've tried to reinvigorate what's happening there. We did have a 5-year hiatus because of track maintenance and COVID. We did successfully bring back horse racing last year for the first time. It's an integral part of our economy and our community, and we believe that this 3-year, $200,000 of supplemental funds will go a long way in bringing back the races and making those, from a continuity standpoint, be there for many years to come. I do have a panel here, but happy to take any questions.
Your panel now,
Yes.
Delegate Hornberger.
Yeah, if you can all come up. Or is it just you, Adam?
I have 9 persons signed up.
Yep. I'll let you guys sit down.
2 written.
I've got to go to another hearing. I actually have to step out for a hearing in health, but thank you and happy to answer any questions offline.
We understand. Thank you very much, Delegate Hornberger. All right, we have a long list of persons that offer unfavorable testimony. We will start with Michelle Lenke, Adam Streit, and then Dan Strickberger. All right, we will start with, is Michelle here?
Yes.
Please start.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Michelle Linke. I'm the mayor of Perryville. The town of Perryville formally opposes House Bill 887. As drafted, the bill would require the town to allocate $70,000 of its local impact grant funding derived from the VLT funds during the years, fiscal years 2027 through 2029 to support the race purchases at Fair Hill. Local impact grant funding is intended to mitigate the effects of hosting gaming facilities in the local area and to address critical priorities such as public safety, infrastructure, health services, economic development, and support local businesses and nonprofits, as well as providing grants for residents to improve their homes and facades. That $70,000 would be 70% of those funds for those grants. Mandating an allocation for a specific purpose undermines the local fiscal autonomy and restricts the town's ability to responsibly manage these funds. The town maintains that locally elected officials who are directly accountable to our citizens are best positioned to determine the appropriate funding allocations. For these reasons, the town of Perryville respectfully requests an unfavorable report on House Bill 887.
Thank you for your testimony. I'd like to acknowledge the presence of Delegate Watson, who is representing the Appropriations Committee. All right, please proceed with the next presenter. Adam?
We just go down the line?
Okay.
Okay. Chair and committee members, good afternoon. My name is Adam Straight, and as Cecil County Executive, I'm here in opposition to House Bill 887, a position shared unanimously by both the executive and legislative branches of Cecil County government. Quite frankly, this bill came as an unpleasant surprise. There was no prior discussion or notice to the county council or my office before its introduction. As drafted, House Bill 887 would require Cecil County to allocate $200,000 of our local impact grant funding from video lottery terminals in fiscal years 2027 through 2029. Page 2 of the bill's fiscal note released this morning stresses this loss to our community each year. Local impact grant funding is intended to offset the impacts of hosting gaming facilities and to support core priorities such as public safety, infrastructure, health services, and economic development. We use these funds to support community partnerships and nonprofits serving residents year-round, strengthening food security, youth programs, drug recovery, behavioral health services, housing stability initiatives, and other essential needs. Last year alone, we awarded $700,000 in VLT funds to 80 nonprofits and volunteer fire companies. This flexibility allows us to direct resources where they are most needed. Mandating a fixed allocation for a single purpose undermines our ability to do so. While the horse racing industry remains important to our identity and economy, decisions about local impact grants should be made by Cecil Countyans locally. These funds belong in our communities, and we need them to remain there. For these reasons, I respectfully urge an unfavorable report on House Bill 887.
Thank you for your testimony. The next presenter.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here to testify today. My name is Bob Meffley. I'm the Vice President of Cecil County Council. And there's, after the county executive, what do they say? There's not a lot of meat on the bone, and that's true. But what this is basically is whether it's improving public safety, youth services, supporting our seniors or veterans, or helping them recover, these organizations make a big impact on our community, providing many of the services that government cannot always equip. They're not equipped to provide. That's why we're pleased to utilize programs like VLT to support them. This is a meaningful partnership for the betterment of the community and the town of Perryville. And what the problem I have, basically, if a bill like this passes, then either one of you or myself is going to have to come to these nonprofits and say, guess what? We can't fund you. And I don't want to be that guy. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I'm Dan Schneckenberger, Director of Administration for Cecil County. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in opposition of House Bill 887. I certainly agree with County Executive Straight, Council Vice President Meffley, and Mayor Linke in opposition. But I did want to give you a little perspective in addition to why we're opposed. roughly around Christmas time, we were blindsided by the fact that the Maryland Sports Commission, which is affiliated with the Maryland Stadium Authority, basically fell apart. All their people either resigned or were relieved of duty. We had a contract with Maryland Sports Commission to put on a race at Fair Hill. Our commitment to that has been $100,000, and we had that for 4 years with that. And that would cover the operation of the races, not purse replenishment. In the meantime, there's a lot of moving pieces behind this to say who would actually run this event since it was wildly successful. And the county has a meeting upcoming with DNR Secretary Kurtz and some of his staff. They own the property at Fair Hill, to understand what would be the entity that would actually execute these races, purse races up at Fair Hill. And we kind of believe that we really need to work out something with DNR on a provider before any kind of purse reallocation can go to the Maryland Jockey Club or any other entity that we have no knowledge of. We don't know what their fiscal capabilities or what their current financial status is or anything else. So just wanted to bring that additional information to you. And as I stated before, respectfully, we would like an unfavorable report on this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there questions of this panel? We have 3 other persons in opposition: George Patchell, Dave Trolino, and Charlene Hall. Are they here, or they're passing on testifying?
Mr. Trolio is not here.
All right. Is there a Charlene Hall? Are you George?
No, ma'am. Charlene Hall is not here with us today. I am George Patchell. I'm the town administrator for Perryville. Thank you for having us here today. We appreciate the committee's time listening to our testimony. Just briefly, I concur with the rest of our panelists. Just be noted that I do hope that the committee looks upon this bill unfavorably. Again, this was a bill that was dropped in our lap up until last Friday evening. The town of Perryville, we were not even aware that this bill existed. And by Tuesday after the holiday, we were signing up to be here today. So that just gives you an idea of the time frame and really the lack of communication between Delegate Hornberger, who represents the town of Perryville, and our local officials. So again, we ask for you to vote unfavorably for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Again, we appreciate your testimony before the committee, and therefore no questions from members. This concludes the testimony of hearing for House Bill 887. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate Forbes, thank you for your patience and your adjustment. We're now ready for House Bill 851, Human Services Maryland Statewide Independent Living Council, legal status. And Delegate Forbes, you may bring your panel with you. You have 2 that are here and 3 that are virtual. Delegate Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before they start, we've got some high schoolers in the back. They're Maryland high school Democrats. They're having their advocacy day. So just wanted to recognize them in the back while they're here before they leave.
All right, what's the name of the group again?
Maryland High School. Did I say it right? Maryland High School Democrats, their advocacy day. Can y'all stand up and be recognized?
Welcome to the Ways and Means Committee. It's great that you will see democracy in action. Thank you very much, Delegate Young, for bringing them here.
And just
Delegate
another
Forbes,
quick
please.
shout out, a lot of Towson generals in the audience right now from my high school.
Okay.
So Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of Ways and Means, for giving me the opportunity to present testimonies in support of HB 851. I'm Delegate Kathy Forbes. This bill will enable the Maryland Statewide Independent Living Council, also called the Maryland Silk, to form as a nonprofit and have autonomy over the federal monies that fund them. Legislation passed during the 2023 session, House Bill 53 and SB 608, was meant to make this change. That legislation passed both the House and the Senate unanimously. Unfortunately, as you'll hear today, as Maryland Silk attempted to effectuate the change, it found it needs this technical corrective legislation passed to finally realize the goal of becoming a nonprofit. So what is the Maryland Statewide Independent Living Council, and why do they want to be a nonprofit? Federal legislation adopted in 1992 requires each state to maintain a statewide independent living council. Our Maryland Silk was created by executive order in 1993. The Maryland Silk is committed to enhancing freedom and independent decision-making of individuals with disabilities. Currently, DOORS, or the Division of Rehabilitative Services, within the Maryland State Department of Education, is the designated state entity that receives and disperses the federal funding received to the Silk. Because Maryland Silk is not a freestanding entity, it cannot receive and expend funds or hire its own employees. It must go to DOORS to expend funds and to hire personnel to accomplish its work. The vision for Maryland Silk is for people with disabilities to have information, choices, and control over the services and supports in their lives so they can participate fully in all aspects of society. This bill allows the people doing the work in our Silk more autonomy over the funding. This change will also enable them to apply for grants and that may increase their funding and allow them to do more work. As I shared, each state is required by federal law to have a Silk, and nearly half the Silks across the country have made this change and become nonprofits. The concept of this bill has already passed the House and the Senate unanimously. This bill is a technical correction required to ensure our Maryland Silk can finally become a nonprofit, and I know they would really appreciate a favorable report after their long journey. So thank you. Your turn.
Okay. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Lorna Mae Silcott, and I am the Executive Director of the Maryland Statewide Independent Living Council, commonly known as SILK. I'm submitting testimony today in support of House Bill 851. Context and mission. The SILK was established by executive order in 1993 and is mandated by the Federal Rehabilitation Act. Our mission is to ensure that Marylanders with disabilities have the resources, advocacy, and community support necessary to live independently. Now, while we are an instrumentality of the state, our daily operations require a level of administrative flexibility that allows us to work alongside our Centers for Independent Living to monitor and implement the state plan for independent living. Now, what's the problem? Legal ambiguity. Currently, our legal status in the Maryland Code, while we function as a nonprofit entity to meet federal requirements, the lack of explicit language defining the Silk as a tax-exempt body politic incorporate creates unnecessary administrative hurdles. This ambiguity can complicate our ability to enter contracts, manage independent audits, and secure the insurance and financial standards necessary to operate efficiently. The solution. Now, House Bill 851 provides a straightforward technical clarification by defining the Silk as a tax-exempt body politic incorporate. This bill aligns our state legal status with our federal mandate and the practical operational needs. This is not a change in our mission or in our relationship with the state. Rather, it provides the legal certainty required for us to be more agile, physically responsible, and effective in our service to the disability community. In conclusion, This bill ensures that the silk can focus less on administrative gray areas and more on its core mission, which is to advance the independence and rights of Marylanders with disabilities. We thank Delegate Forbes for her leadership on this technical but vital issue. Thank you.
Thank you. The next advocate.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My name is Cynthia Brown, and I serve as the treasurer for the statewide Independent Living Council. While my colleagues spoke to the vital services the silk provides, I am here to address the dollars and cents of House Bill 851. Specifically, I want to address briefly why the transition to a tax-exempt body politic and corporate is a matter of essential fiscal integrity and risk mitigation. As treasurer, my primary concern is ensuring every dollar allocated to the silk reaches the community it is intended to serve. The silk's current ambiguous status can lead to avoidable administrative taxes as well as redundant filing requirements. By explicitly recognizing the silk as a tax-exempt entity in statute, we ensure state allocation and federal fundings are maximized for services. Taxpayer dollars should fund independence for people with disabilities, not unnecessary legal and tax liabilities. House Bill 851 is a functional tool that provides the silk with the clear legal capacity to enter into and manage its own contracts with the agility required to meet federal mandates while remaining fully accountable to the state. This bill provides a stable foundation for long-term planning, ensures transparency, protects the state's investment, and allows us to steward public funds with the highest degree of professionalism. This concludes my testimony in support of House Bill 851. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you for your testimony. And we have one other in person testimony, Tiara Winmon.
I'm actually on video.
Please proceed, Ms. Winmon. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tiara Winman. I'm the Executive Director of the Image Center of Maryland. Our formal name is Independent Marylanders Achieving Growth Through Empowerment. I am one of the 7 CILs in the state of Maryland that is supported by the Maryland State Independent Living Council. I'm here today to speak on behalf of Bill 851. Much to what my colleagues already spoke to, I would like to emphasize that formalizing the legal status in the Maryland Code ensures that we have administrative efficiency by removing ambiguity regarding the council's ability to enter into contracts and manage its own corporate affairs, financial integrity by explicitly stating its tax-exempt status, protects the funding meant for programs and advocacy rather than administrative overhead, in alignment with federal law, strengthens the council's standing as an instrumentality of the state as required by federal Rehabilitation Act. In my experience, the Maryland Silk plays an integral role in providing statewide initiatives to raise awareness for independent living across Maryland. Redefining the council as a tax-exempt body, politic, and corporate will allow access to funding like grants, private foundations, corporations, and government entities. More diverse funding streams means that the council will have additional resources to support independent living in Maryland, and a nonprofit status will provide tax exemption status, so more funding is dedicated to programming. Ensuring the Maryland Silk has a firm legal foundation as a nonprofit allows them to focus 100% of their energy on supporting independent living initiatives. Thank you, everyone, for your attention today.
Thank you very much. And the next, we have virtual Adema Bagora. And then Stephanie Swartz. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Ways and Means Committee. My Schwartz and I serve as the Deputy Director of the Image Center for People with Disabilities. We are a Center for Independent Living, or CIL, run by and for people with disabilities. And I am here today to provide supporting information regarding House Bill 0851. Under the section of our state code, bills are mandated to work in close coordination with the State Independent Living Council, or the SILC. This isn't a suggestion, it is the blueprint for how we deliver our services. However, a network is only as strong as its anchor. Currently, our SILC operates under a For the SILs to succeed in our mission, we need a partner with a firm, unambiguous legal foundation. When the SILC is structurally sound, the entire independent living network is empowered to serve our consumers more effectively. Protecting the state plan for independent living, which another acronym is the SPIL. This SPIL determines how federal and state resources are allocated to help Marylanders with disabilities live autonomously. From a pragmatic standpoint, down by administrative or legal questions regarding its status, the SPIL suffers. One ensures that the SILC can spend 100% of its energy on service strategy procedural standing. Finally, this bill is about professionalism and permanence. Our disability community and the external vendors that we work with need to know that the institutions representing them are stable. Establishing that clear legal status signals to our stakeholders that the SILC is a permanent professional institution. It provides the fiscal and administrative certainty required to manage long-term projects and build trust with the people that we serve. House Bill 0851 is a foundational necessity, providing the clarity that we need to move from asking, how are we structured, to how can we better serve our citizens? I respectfully provide this information as a favorable recommendation for House Bill 0851, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mangora. You may proceed, please.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Adama Bangura. I am a dedicated disability rights advocate, a member of SILC, but I'm currently with Melwood Horticultural Training Center. Now, I have worked with families directly, including individuals with disabilities, navigating systems that too often create barriers instead of opportunities for people with disabilities. So, I respectfully want to urge a favorable report on this HB 815. For years, I have witnessed firsthand how policy clarity or the lack of it can determine whether services are delivered efficiently or delayed unnecessarily for people with disabilities. HB 815 is about clarity. It is about stability. It is about protecting the infrastructure that supports Marylanders with disabilities. It is something that is very, very needed for Maryland Center of Independent Living Services. Now, this bill matters because Maryland Statewide Independent Living Council plays a critical role in not only shaping but monitoring Maryland's independent living services for people with disabilities. It works alongside Centers for Independent Living and ensures that people with disabilities can live independently, particularly fully to be able to participate in their communities of their choice and exercise their civil rights. Now, HB 815 strengthens the mission by formally defining the council as a tax-exempt body, politic and corporate. While Maryland SILC has operated since 1993, codifying this legal status in Maryland law will ensure administrative authority and efficiency. It will make the council will have clear statutory authority to enter contracts and manage funds. It will also help with financial protection and integrity. Explicit tax-exempt recognition safeguards critical funding, so resources are directed to advocacy, planning, and oversight, not diverted due to technical uncertainties.
Thank you so much.
Federal compliance and stability.
Bring your testimony to a conclusion, please. Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I can conclude. In concluding, HB 815 is a common sense, fiscally responsible measure that strengthens governance, protects public resources, and reinforces Maryland's commitment to disability rights. So, as an advocate, I am asking for a favorable report on this HB 815 bill. Thank you.
Thank you all for your testimony. Are there any questions of members? If not, thank you very much, Delegate Forbes, for bringing this to our attention, and this concludes the hearing for HB 851. Members, this also concludes today's hearing for February 19th, 2026, and we will return at 4:15 for a voting session. Thank you so much.